Today I'm presenting the paper Putting Phenomenological Theories to Work in the Design of Self-Tracking Technologies by myself, Sarah Homewood, and my co-author Anna Vallgårda from the IT University of Copenhagen. Existing self-tracking technologies have been criticised for perpetuating a dualist, Cartesian, rather than phenomenological understanding of the self as a separated mind and body, and in this paper we answer calls for a phenomenological approach to the design of self-tracking devices. In our study we focused on menstrual cycle tracking devices, and this is a typical design of most menstrual cycle tracking apps. The user puts in data on their menstrual cycle, and the app uses algorithms to try to predict when events such as menstruation, ovulation, and PMS will occur in the next coming cycle. And this is based on an assumption that the menstrual cycle occurs regularly. So users are also given medical information about the menstrual cycle through the app. Phenomenology is the philosophical study of lived experience. The world is always world as perceived rather than a scientific object or thing in itself. And this works against a Cartesian dualist perspective where there is seen to be an inherent truth to objects in the world that can be discovered through scientific methods. Within self-tracking, this attitude holds that it is possible and beneficial to control the unruly body through making it transparent and malleable through collecting and acting upon self-tracking data. In some ways, using phenomenological approaches with self-tracking data creates an epistemological battleground where scientific truths about the body are being pitted against the lived experience of the user. And some of the consequences of this were evident in our study and something we go into more detail about in our paper. So rather than reenacting Cartesian perspectives, we attempted to design a menstrual cycle tracking device with phenomenological commitments. So the first one is that knowledge is co-constructed. The knowledge of the self is constructed rather than discovered through external sources of information and internal sensations. The body is interconnected. Interactions with other people influence self-understanding. We are an interconnected self. We are always our past, present, and future selves. Notions of the past and future self influence the present experience of the self. The body is always in flux. Although it is not always experienced as such, the body is always in a constant state of change, and that we are reflexively influenced by our internal states. Our internal states influence our sense of self and our experience of the world, and our experience of data on our internal states also goes into that feedback loop. So rather than designing a device that would provide truths about the user's body, we aim towards a type of menstrual cycle tracking device that acknowledged the individual subjective experience of the user rather than asking them to fit their experience of their menstrual cycle into a model based on scientific knowledge or medical knowledge. We wanted to offer a device that co-constructed knowledge about the menstrual cycle with the individual. We also wanted to avoid the device being a diagnostic device. And we did this by using a constant flow of data in the home, rather than the data being shown in one person's app, which was checked periodically. So rather than seeing the body as moving between these distinct periods or phases of the menstrual cycle, such as menstruation, PMS, and ovulation, based on medical models, we wanted to reflect that the body is always in a state of change. Ambient Cycle is comprised of a Wi-Fi enabled microcontroller with an LED strip that is configured through a design web page which can be used as an app. The microcontroller and LED strip are embedded in an acrylic line bent form to form the lamp part of the design, and the lamp is designed to project colour up a wall. Menstrual cycle data is considered to be private data, and since the lamp was designed to be displayed within the home, we used an ambiguous design and form of data representation just through changing colour of the light to make sure that the user felt secure knowing that their private data was protected. So unless somebody was told what the device was and what the particular meaning of the colours were, no one would guess that lamp had anything to do with menstrual cycles at all. Ambient Cycle is a menstrual cycle tracking device that, like most apps, rely on self-reported data to give the user a prediction of when the next phase of the menstrual cycle will occur. So the interface asks the user to input information on the average length of their menstrual cycle and which day of the cycle they're currently on. And then they're asked to colour in the bar that represents their menstrual cycle to represent any aspect of the menstrual cycle that they want. The LED strip then lights up with a colour that correlates to each day according to how the user has decided to program it. And the lamp then automatically cycles through this colour configuration over the coming months. I deployed Ambient Cycle in the home of 5 participants for 3 months, and here you can see that my participant has chosen pink for when she has her period, purple for when she's finishing her period, blue for the middle part of her cycle, and white for PMS when she's irritable just before her period starts again. My participants chose many different colour configurations based on many different reasons. So one said, I read that you're supposed to feel more energetic in the first 2 weeks of the cycle. It would be nice to maximise that. This participant wanted to use the lamp to reflect and even exaggerate her energy levels during her menstrual cycle. And participants programmed the device to reflect how they would be feeling at the time they would be experiencing the data, so kind of for their future selves, based on their memory. This participant chose to program blue and green colours to soothe her when she had anxiety because of PMS. Cooler colours helped me calm down. And this shows a use of Ambient Cycle as a therapeutic tool that would help improve my participants' experience. Some participants wanted Ambient Cycle to fit how they were feeling, even if this meant living with a colour that they didn't like. There was a tension between it being something that represented some aspect of their bodies or emotions and it being a device in the home. My logic was like, I choose a colour that matches my feelings these days. What I'm feeling is not pleasant, so I choose a not pleasing colour. The fact that private data was being presented publicly in the home was dealt by my participants in different ways. So this participant found the thought of telling her parents-in-law what the device really did was laughable, but was really happy to post about the study on social media. So she says, I forgot to tell my parents-in-law, but that would have been different to say, oh, it's just my menstrual cycle, as she laughed. Another participant was still using her normal menstrual cycle tracking app at the same time as using Ambient Cycle. And she was really surprised when Ambient Cycle actually proved to be more accurate than her app in predicting her period. She felt that the design of Ambient Cycle made it seem less accurate. And this also led her to question her relationships with menstrual cycle tracking technologies more generally. She says, but then I actually had my period, so the lamp was more accurate than the app. But that's also a weird way of looking at it, like the app is correct. I mean, it's my body that should be correct. There were also ways in which Ambient Cycle pointed to new ways in which we might use self-tracking devices. So designing with the phenomenological approach proved to be very innovative. For example, 2 participants thought they might use the device to communicate their menstrual states to their family. Well, I'm also thinking of its benefits for my family. If it becomes blue when I have PMS, I could tell my kids, say I have PMS, you know it's blue, so be gentle. Another participant used Ambient Cycle to track parts of her menstrual cycle where she felt good, whereas normally she would only track negative aspects. I chose green for the good days, and so I thought, oh, I'm going to pay attention if it's really good these days. So to summarise, we found that a phenomenological approach showed how co-constructive methods of producing knowledge about the body risks mistrust and feelings that the device is obsolete, and that public displays of private data require careful negotiation through the design of the device, which we did through using an ambiguous design of the artifact and an ambiguous display of data through coloured light. However, this approach, or this phenomenological approach, also facilitated the documentation of many different aspects of the menstrual cycle, for example, both physiological and emotional aspects, the tracking of positive as well as negative aspects of the menstrual cycle, and novel uses of self-tracked data, for example, as a tool to communicate internal states with others. So thank you very much.